Hi everyone. This is just a very quick piece of video that might give you some ideas. That's really all. I'd been working there recently and I had some colors left in a palette, and I think they're like ochre, burnt sienna, white, and black. Basically working with almost like Zorn palette. Anyway, I was just about to clean the palette and I thought, you know what, I'll take my palette knife, and try and daub around on a scrap of board and just play with the marks rather than just waste the paint, as it were. So the reason behind this is really just, I hope maybe to inspire you or to motivate you to play with paint. Sometimes people don't paint, and I say, well, why are you not? I haven't got and they'll say, I haven't got anything good to paint yet, or I haven't decided what to paint. And this goes on and on and on, and sometimes the decision's never made. And my approach is, you know what, if you have some paint, you have a board, it's not precious. Play around, learn what the marks can look like and what you can do with them, what you can create, wipe it all out again, and nothing is lost. But you have painted and you have thought about what you're doing, and your brain is kept in gear and your eye is kept in gear. But if you put off and put off, I remember when I was in college, some of the younger students, when we give them homeworks and to do something, and Monday would come and I'd said, well, what did you do over the weekend? And they had nothing. And I said, well, why have you nothing? And the answer was always, I couldn't think of a good idea. And I said, you don't have ideas, you make ideas. Ideas are made by watching things happen. You don't just sit there in your seat and wait for them to come along. So this is what this little scrappy bit of work's about. So I'm going to change over to the other camera here. Hopefully this will work, which is on the piece of board, and hopefully the light's reasonable enough. So bear with me. So there we are. I hope it's a wee bit of board. I've just rubbed it with some brown paint, and I'll show you the palette that I have left over. There you can see that. Hopefully there's all the mess and the paints on it. So I'm going to scrape that off and daub it onto the board. So I'm just going to start, you know what, I'm not even thinking about color. I'm just putting a big lump of paint on, and I'm just going to watch that, what I can do with a knife, you know, just drag that across a couple of times. I'm not thinking about planning anything here. I'm just making a mark. There's a mark. Potentially, it could be anything. Of course, could be a horizon, could be a top of a table, whatever. But just make that mark and let it guide you. Make a few marks up here. Right, just doing that. I don't know. I'm not dead sure what I'm doing. That's the whole point. I'm just playing here. Okay, I've got a few verticals, maybe turn them into trees or something later on. Get some nice grays going on here, maybe up here. Along there, I'm actually covering up the things I did, but stir that around a wee bit, you know. The grays will maybe, I know on the camera, they'll look maybe a little blue anyway, but funnily enough, when we talked about the Zorn palette, if you look that up, if you're not familiar, one of the things he did was he used gray instead of blue, because when you put gray beside yellowish colors, they'll appear to be blue. Now I know in this video it's going to look really quite blue because the light's not great today and so on. So, you know, the camera's not picking up that accurately, as it were. But, you know, there's a whole area there that I've put in another strip. Let's take some nice deep reddish blacks here and throw some of those in. Look at that lovely marks that I've created by accident, as it were, you know, that stirred. Look at the colors all subtly blending together, you know. So, you know, if I do that, I'll maybe create another layer of some place, some, you know, just you can hear, look, there's a few scratches in there as well, you know. Bring that up a wee bit on that side. You know. Down here, let's say we'll get in with another couple of nice dark. If you hear any noises, by the way, creaky noises, it's not my bones or anything. At least I don't think so. It's a little seat that I have, which has seen better days, heard better days, you know. But look at this. I'm just putting on some nice big blocks here. Maybe I'm starting to think about rocks. So what's happening is that the marks have started making me think about something. So the marks, in a way, are guiding me. So, you know, I'm putting these nice dark lumps in the foreground here, you know. Bring that on down there, you know. We can play with this. It can be kept loose. It can be made actually quite detailed if you want, but we'll stay loose the minute with it. Just so that we can appreciate the marks. And that's what I would like you to do. Look at this and look at the scratches and textures that that's capable of. Because this may not be a masterpiece, which is probably not going to be, but you may someday say, oh, I remember how I got that. Yes, I must have applied that. So, you know, watch the way I'm going scratching vertically. And there's no magic to this. Anybody can just go along, scratch, 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 which is what I'm doing there. But what is magic is when you discover it's possible to use it for something. So I've decided this is a water's edge here because of those vertical lines suggest reflection. So I'll just call it the water's edge here. And so we've kind of filled the page or the canvas with different layers now. I've got a bit more white here, so I'm going to stick it on there, lash that on. Look, you know, there's something nice about the feel of paints in general, oil paints, maybe in particular for me, but, you know, look what I'm doing here, you know. I'm not consciously planning anything. What I'm doing is if something begins to look like something, I'm thinking, well, let's develop it. So that's the way I'm working. I don't have a plan. I'm letting the paint, if you like, guide me to some extent, you know. I'm just checking to see, yeah, it's just a bit of contrast in that image there going along the top. And maybe it's all stripes at the minute, so it might be nice to put something vertically again. So we'll get in with the bit of I have some of that ochre and black mixing together. So I don't know, just drag a line. Look at that. Just drag the knife down, and the knife will do the work. You know, just let it happen. You know that. You know, none of this is precious. I can make an imprint of the knife. Do you see that? So it's kind of making suggestions. I'm like, okay, well, it's starting to suggest maybe branches. So let's run with that. Take the knife, just imprint, you know, see what it looks like. Some of them might be thicker, some of them thinner, I don't know. Maybe a nice big branch going on maybe over here, you know, coming out a wee bit there. So I'm using the colors that I had, remember, so, you know, it's, I'm kind of limited, but that's another good challenge as well, actually, is because you don't have blue and yellow and green and pink, that you've got what you've got to work with what you've got. What I might do is actually put the suggestion of clumps of leaves growing on that just when I'm at it. So again, I'm just stroking the edge of the knife here, you know, just see what happens. As I stroke it, it gets mixed in with some of the colors that I previously put on, so it looks lighter. And if it looks lighter, it might look a wee bit further away also, so we can sort of play around with that idea. And maybe along here where there's a very sharp line, I can maybe decide on something reflecting in there. You know, a bit of reflection in there, reflection, drag that down there a few times to suggest something there. And this paint is now really, really thick. I'm going to try dragging across there to suggest perhaps even ripples and things in the water. Do you see that? You know, this is a play thing, you know. But we're sort of getting a hint of reflection. We're getting a hint of trees here. We're getting hints of things. And we haven't planned anything really, you know. I'm literally coming to the end of nearly everything that I've got on my palette here, so I'm sort of running out. So I'm going to have to be as creative as possible with what I've got here. Maybe break this area up into, instead of it all being that one brown, maybe stir that ochre into it. See that? Tapping it in to make it maybe more interesting and so on. And now that I've pretty much not got any paint, what I might have to do is scrape up bits. So I'm lifting up bits of dark on the edge of this here, and maybe even just making a few suggestions of something down this side. Up. I don't know if it could be reeds or something. So I'm just playing with pat. You see those lovely thin lines on that side. There's a bit of sun, almost a sunset, I suppose. I don't know if I've got enough ochre and white, not really, to get away with making that horizon more yellow in between, look, in between the tree there, to make it more like a sunset, if you like. But it's you know, it's starting to become things, you know, and it really is me just literally, there I am scraping up. I'm scraping from here and applying it to there, look, just to try and get a wee bit more crispness on these branches and things. So actually I might take that bit out and have that as a reflection. That makes a nicer sort of thing going on there, that the tree is actually on the edge of a piece of land and it's reflecting the water. But look, this is, you know, there, I'll show you my remains of what's left. There's a palette pretty much gone now, and it's all on there. But I might as well have done that than they've wrapped up my palette and threw it in the bin. That's my philosophy anyway. And you know what, look, I can just take and scrape this away bit by bit. And you know what, here's another interesting thing. As I scrape it away, even watch what happens here, because paint has a habit of remaining to some extent. So I don't know if you can see here, but if I keep running that vertically, I'm just wiping it off on the tissue. So I'm removing most of the paint, but there are dregs, as you see, left behind there. And that becomes interesting, you know. And you know what, I might even, just as an experiment, while I'm in the mode of cleaning, I'm taking a piece of tissue paper or kitchen roll here, and I'm just taking, and I'm going to say, what could I do with this? Could I soften this landscape? Could I make something of it? I don't know, maybe not. Wipe some of that away and draw into this. So there's my land, and it's now becoming a misty landscape. A moody, misty night, evening, with the sun cracking over the horizon. There's very romantic and poetic, you know. But I hope you can sort of see what I'm trying to do here. And there's a little bit of water at the bottom of it. So I'm actually making it all more similar, because I'm muddying all the colors together in a sense. But I don't know if you can see the really quite interesting thing that's happening, especially up here, you know, as if that was the light of a sky or whatever. And if I rub hard, I can rub that back a wee bit more. So in other words, the painting actually can become much less busy, but much more interesting, or at least as interesting, if that makes sense. So I'm rubbing away, I'm still removing paint. Look at that, there's a little bit of scratching I could be doing. Actually might be interesting. Sorry about the noise, but what happens if I scrape little details with my nail here along the edge of the mountain or whatever this is. And you know, you can keep on doing this, it's amazing. If I wipe that out, okay, you could say that, well, Sam's wiped out the painting. You could also say Sam has just created a misty, foggy night in the mornings or something like that. You see that? So be always, as a painter, look for what you can make, not for what you can't make, if that makes sense. look at something and say, can I use that? No matter what it is, even a virtually blank canvas. This is what I'm doing here. I'm left with hardly anything on this bit of board here. But yet, if I really work here, I can lift bits out. You know I was planning to stop about 10 minutes ago, but quite interested in what I'm doing here. But you see how I am doing this. So I'm thinking of Turner. I'm not comparing myself, by the way, but I'm thinking of some of Turner's fantastic watercolors and sometimes oils, where he had these really misty days, really, and the light glowed from behind the hills, or maybe on the water very often, seascapes and things. So I'm just making I'm rubbing really hard to remove that. And there, for me, is one of those sort of moody days with the light gleaming through it. So it's all pretty much an accident. Well, up to a point, So if I can stop my chair squeaking, and if I can change my camera here, so you can see me again, and my hands suitably covered, all right. Hopefully that might inspire you to get paints out and play with them, and not to sit back and say, oh, I can't paint because I haven't got an idea, or I haven't got anything to paint. We always have something to paint, because it's always in here, So anyway, think about that, folks. Give it a go and see how you get on, okay? Thank you.